What's up, guys? You're about to listen to a recording that I did in partnership with Perform Better, the wonderful people at Perform Better. And I teamed up with Mark Fisher and Rachel Cosgrove, two of my buddies that I speak with on the Perform Better tour. And they had us answer questions based around a recent data report that was put out by a company called Boutique Fitness Solutions. And we talk lead follow-up, we talk retention, we talk conversions, all kinds of cool ideas that Mark, Rachel, and I gave based on what the data was saying. So a little different flow from the typical podcast I put out, but I think this will be helpful for you. So enjoy this data report conversation with myself, Mark, and Rachel. Enjoy.
Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to the Perform Better webinar series. We're here today with four great business minds. We got Julian Barnes, who's going to lead this. Julian is the founder of BFS. The topic today is the path to profitable strength studios, what the data and top coaches reveal. Along with Julian on the panel, we got Mark Fisher from Business for Unicorns. We got Vince Gabriel from Gabriel Fitness. And we got Rachel Cosgrove from Results Fitness. Obviously, we got some great minds in here in the fitness business industry. I'm going to turn it over to Julian and let these four business minds take over from here. Have a good one, guys.
Thanks, Chris.
Thanks, Chris.
And thanks to all of you who are listening live and who may be listening to this on the recording in the future. As Chris said, my name is Julian Barnes, co-founder and CEO of the BFS network, that is Beauty, Fitness, and Self-Care. One of the things that we do is publish annual reports on the state of the industry. And we recently released the BFS Strength Report, which is what we're going to talk about today. I've asked three of my friends, Mark Fisher, Vince Gabriel, and Rachel Cosgrove, to join us today and talk about the path to profitability for gyms and studios. The way this is going to work is I'm going to show a couple of slides between each question, show what the data says from our recent report, and I'm going to ask Mark, Vince, and Rachel to opine and share their insights on whether they believe the data, and if so, their recommendations for how each of you can achieve the metrics that are shown in the data. Just a little context, first of all, this survey was conducted in the last 12 months of gym and studio owners worldwide, mostly US and Canada, but there are a few offshore. They are overwhelmingly independently owned businesses that are not financed by private equity. So there's no Barry's in here, no Soul Cycle, no Solid Core. There may be one or two large groups of PE-backed Orange Theory franchises. I think there's one or two. But for the most part, the data reflects individually owned gyms and studios. 71% of the respondents have one location. Another 19% have two or three locations. So they're just like most of you who are listening. They started their own gym. Maybe they opened a second one. Maybe they got friends and family or an SBA loan, but we're not talking about the big national companies. So with that context, let's get started. The first question I have for all of you, and let me share my screen, is the beginning of the client journey is, of course, number of leads per month. And our data revealed that profitable gyms generate more than 50 leads per month. So let me say that again. Profitable gyms generate more than 50 leads per month. And you can see the distinction here between city and suburbs. They're pretty close, 29 and 33%. So Mark, let's start with you. Is this consistent with your experience from Business for Unicorns?
Generally, I think so. I guess if I can ask one clarifying question, Julian, is this only profitable gyms, or are these all the gyms that fill this out?
Only profitable. All the
Only
data,
profitable
great
gyms.
question. Thanks for reminding. All the data is only for the profitable gyms.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, I think within reason, obviously the number of leads you need in a given month is going to be a function of how many clients you have. And one thing I think at some point I'll speak to a little bit, probably your coach to client ratio, because that is going to determine the actual capacity of a given studio. But within reason, yeah, if you say 50 leads per month, that's like 12 leads per week. That feels like it's hard to grow, I think, if you're doing less than that once you have tipping point of clients. So, if you have a 6-on-1 gym, you're going to max out at, probably 120, 150 maybe. If you have a more large group class boutique concept, obviously back in the heyday, there were Orange Theories that at times had over 1,000 clients. So the amount of lead flow you're going to need, again, is going to vary. But I think within reason, yeah, even like a modest small group gym, if you are getting, 5 leads per week, even if you're converting a very high percentage, oftentimes it gets hard to outsell attrition, certainly once you're approaching 100 clients.
Excellent. Thank you. Rachel, what are your thoughts about this metric?
Yes, I think it's definitely on point. I want to clarify that a lead is somebody who has raised their hand and said they're interested in your business. So it doesn't necessarily mean they've walked through the door and they're sitting down with you. They've given you their information, maybe their email, maybe their phone number. And so, I think for a lot of gym owners, sometimes they expect, a lead is somebody who comes walking through their door magically. And so there is a process. So the lead is basically somebody who has given us their information. They've raised their hand and said, I'm interested in what you do. I want to know more. Doesn't mean they're ready to sign up. Doesn't mean they're ready to come through your door. So I think shooting for 50 leads a month, that's going to be a good number for most, small gyms to be on track to end up with, 10 to 12 new members. So that's, with a whole nurture campaign in effect and taking those 50 leads and eventually getting them through the door and eventually getting them to sit down, eventually converting them and then making them your member.
Okay, great. So then, Vince, we learned from our research that the most effective intro offer was referrals. Is that consistent with your experience and what you teach your clients?
So we definitely teach our clients to generate referrals. I think an intro offer, I don't know if like the verbiage might be a little skewed because in my experience, an intro offer could be something, that you put out on Facebook that was, 2 weeks free or a free trial session or a consultation or something like that.
My bad. Let me rephrase. The referrals was the most effective lead gen tactic. The question should be, what is the most successful intro offer? And so that's what I'm showing here on the slide. So my bad for question. So these are the various intro offers, and you can see here, surprisingly to me, the first place, the response with the answer with the most responses was other, which means, in my opinion, that there's no one dominant or prevailing response.
Yeah. No, and I have some thoughts on that. I think that probably the reason is nothing works forever. And I think that one intro offer that could work for a few months or a few weeks eventually will kind of run its course. And then there needs to be a new intro offer that's created because people get saturated. People get used to things. They see things over and over again. And so I think the biggest insight that people can make from what I saw here is that you need multiple intro offers. And I think that one of the things that people get really confused on is, if I have multiple intro offers, I have to change my sales process and change my pricing and change the way I do it. And the reality is the skill is changing the intro offer, right? Whether that's 2 weeks free, a free consultation, and it all goes into the same vacuum. It all goes into the same place. So you're not redirecting and recreating your sales process. So I think the best piece of advice here is that people are going to need to put different wrappers on things. They're going to need to know, that a 2-week free trial will work. A free consultation will work. It's just not going to probably work forever. And you need to get used to being able to change that wrapper, but keep your sales process consistent so it doesn't mess up your whole operations internally.
Great points there. Rachel, as you can see here, the most effective intro offer price was $21 to $50. Is that in line with what you see across your purview?
This is going to depend on what you charge. So, for us, our least expensive membership is $125 biweekly. So our lowest intro offer is $197, like $197. We want to get people to convert. So offering a $21 to $50 intro offer is not going to get as high of a conversion. It's not going to get as qualified as a lead as if you do go with a higher price point. So I think you do have to, one, you can give it a try, the $21 to $50, see who shows up. And if you're really good at sales, you might be able to get them converted, but you might end up with a lot of people that aren't going to be qualified or able to, convert to become a part of your gym. And so it's really, you got to look at, charging enough that you're going to get qualified leads that are going to be able to convert and become a long-term member. And I want to back up on the referrals. I do think it's important that you have some kind of a trial offer for those referrals. I think a lot of people think referrals just happen and, that it's just part of, people are going to send me people, but I'm really getting systemized with it and figuring out like a VIP trial offer. So it's still, an intro offer that's a VIP offer that your clients, we listen for people to mention somebody. And then our trainers know, they give them a nice VIP card that, here's a VIP intro for your friend who you mentioned. And then if we can get their information, we can reach out. And that way you have that referral engine going because it is going to be one of your most qualified leads as well.
So what's the most effective referral tactic that you've seen?
Well, like I mentioned, so listening for your clients to mention somebody. So, giving when your coaches are on the floor, making sure they're listening because they're the ones who are face to face with the clients. So if your client mentions, oh, I was telling my sister all about this place and, oh, what's your sister's name? Her name's Jenny. Oh, tell me all about what Jenny does. Oh, well, Jenny's been training at this other gym, but she's really not happy. Well, we would love to invite Jenny to come join us for a couple weeks as a VIP member. Since you're a member here, we will go ahead and extend her a VIP. So we usually do a free 2 weeks so they can come in, they can try it out for free. We only give this to VIP members, we only give out a few. They're very exclusive. It's not just everybody gets one. And then, then if you want to go ahead and give me Jenny's contact information, I can reach out. So someone specific, listening for that specific person, and then really making the client feel special that you're taking care of the client, right? Now we're gifting that client this VIP membership that then when they leave the gym that day, they're going to call their sister Jenny and go, hey, guess what? You get to come to the gym with me. I've been wanting you to come. I have a 2-week pass ready to go for you. So let's go, so that ends up getting a little more specific than, just like, hey, we want referrals.
In that scenario, do you provide any type of incentive to your VIP member?
It's funny, whenever we've dangled a carrot for referrals, our clients it doesn't seem to motivate them more. We actually, they like recognition. We do put some extra money on their Shake account. We put their name up on a board. As long as we're recognizing them, yes, we say thank you. And then if we do have a big referrer, we usually unannounced, we'll get them a gift that's something, that surprises them to say thank you. So we've done different referral challenges, hey, we're giving away an iPad or, and our clients can afford their iPad. So I just feel like they're kind of you don't need to give me stuff to bring people in here. If you guys want me to bring people in here. So that's what our own, I don't know if you guys had that experience. What have you guys seen with referrals? Have you tried different giveaways and had good, I'm curious.
I'll go, Mark. We stumbled onto something that really worked well. Didn't work very good during COVID, but I got some guy that gave me a business card once, and the business card was black and metal, and it was heavy, and I dropped it on the ground, and it made this clanking noise, and I was like, oh my God, this thing is amazing. And so what we started to do is we got cards made for a free 1-month membership, and every time we signed up a new member, we gave them the card. And we got the cards made with these little numbers on them. So it was 001, 002, and they're $6 or $7 a pop. And basically we kind of had this conversation with them. We were like, hey, we only give these out to people that are current members. Your number 001. We're going to give this to you. And we also would ask, kind of leading the question with, instead of saying, give this to somebody, we say, who's the first person that comes to your mind that would benefit from getting a free month with us? And so I think sometimes the language that you use is really important, and that question prompts them to actually think about something. And sometimes you need to take it a step further and be like, oh, what is it? Do you have a spouse? Do you have a friend? Do you have a neighbor? I think one of the things about referrals is that this concept I learned from a guy named Dean Jackson is make it easy for your customers to refer. Right. And so when you make it easy, so for the first part, easy is I'm giving them something for free. So now it's like Rachel said, you're giving them a gift. That's not hard to do, right? That's a good thing to do. And your clients actually look like a cool, fun, nice person for giving them a gift. And the second thing is there's like a thing that they have that they give it to. So it's, the whole concept is make it easy for your customers to refer and don't feel like they're like having to sell your business. Almost make them show up like the hero for the referral. So the black metal card at the point of sale, except during COVID, it didn't work during COVID. But the black metal card was, and it's funny because all my mastermind clients, like I taught them this, and they all bought metal cards. Like every one of my clients, so they're like, "Where do you get those metal cards? Where do you get those metal cards?" And they all bought the metal cards, and now they have there's like 100
Right. Because they
something
bring them
JVs.
back, so
Yeah.
you're going to get it, even if it's expensive, you're going to get
And
it
I'll
back.
tell you
And
one more. I'll tell you
yeah.
one more thing we do is like if we send it out and they haven't sent it back in, we will send them an email say, "Hey, if you didn't find
We need your
anyone,
card back.
yes, please bring your card back." So a little bit of shaming helps
Yeah.
too.
And I think you're right, like that at the start of their membership is when they're going to be most likely to refer. So, we've seen that too, is we have scripts in place so that, right away, because that's when they're excited. That's when, you're brand new. That's when they're telling all their friends about you. So really making it easy at that point.
So let's go a little further in this because we know that referrals is the most popular lead gen tactic, and it doesn't require hiring an agency and spending thousands of dollars if you have the right systems in place. So let's go a step further. Rachel just mentioned that it's great to give out that black card at the beginning for a new client, but let's flip it to the person who's your 3 times a week for the last 3 or 4 years person. And that person, everyone in her life knows she goes to your gym 3 times a week for the last 5 years. And she knows that you're looking for new clients, but it's not top of mind for her. What can you do, Mark, or anyone else, to take the people who've been paying you, who've been committed to you for years, who are most likely the health and wellness expert in their chat group, like everyone goes to them for health and wellness advice. How can you incentivize that person to bring her friends to your clubs?
Yeah, I kind of think about when I think about referral offers, part of what I think makes them impactful is I think in marketing, you have inbound approaches and outbound approaches, right? So like very briefly, they're the things that the prospect does when they want a gym, right? And it's going to be two things. They're going to search online, Google Maps, or a chatbot, or they're going to ask a friend. So a referral can be useful. And I often call that's like the fishing net, right? So a fishing net is some sort of evergreen, always available, obvious first thing to make it easy for the client to refer, right? That may or may not include an incentive for the client's friend, usually does. Maybe it includes an incentive for the client, but I think to Rachel's like very good point, like people like they can probably afford it. It's more about just like acknowledging and giving them a thank you maybe than about like incentivizing new behavior because of the action. On the other hand, we're thinking about this like long-term client, right? Because ideally, we're talking about the evergreen referral offer. We're training our clients on that, right? We're talking, and you can decide, maybe it's like typically it might be point of sale. It might be, every 6 months, you just do a blast to all clients so they remember it exists. Potentially you build this in if you have any sort of goal review session. But if we really want to like shake the lead fruit from the lead tree, so we have this typical client's been around for 3 years. I think when I think about marketing outbound stuff, I think of that as like fishing poles, right? And there's a number of things you could do there. You could run paid ads, you could do business partnerships, you could just go talk to people one-on-one in the street. But the referrals are interesting because you have a referral inbound approach where the clients know what to say. If a friend is like, "Oh, I'm thinking about a gym. Do you like that gym?" "Oh yeah, it's this thing." But the fishing pole version would be some sort of time-sensitive offer that is leveraging some kind of urgency and or scarcity. That can look like different things in different models, but in general, that might be something like a Bring a Buddy week, right? Which is usually not available all the time. It might be like, for next week only, your friends can come train unlimited times for free. And perhaps it is a holiday one. Vince, I think I heard this one from you first, some sort of like holiday thing where maybe you do like, because we do the black card version, the black card in our gym, New Jersey, and usually it's like you have to claim by the end of December and you have to start by whatever, January 19th, right? So ideally we're driving some action by something that's not usually available, which gives it an element of time sensitivity. I think if you have a bigger gym, again, I might not do this in a smaller gym, but if you have a very large class-based concept and you got a lot of bandwidth, you could do a more robust give to get, So that might be like for the month of whatever, or, we're going to award points for reviews and for bringing in leads and for posting on Instagram end to end to end. And then you do a raffle and you give away like a Yeti cooler or whatever. Because if you do the math of it, that actually can make sense. The cost per acquisition can make it worth your while. I think the only thing about the give to get I caution to people listening is like, I don't usually like that for smaller gyms just because it's like a lot of work and it'd just be easier just like run a big, bring a buddy once in a while, do like some sort of once in a while a free month for a friend thing. That tends to be like how I think about it. So I'll pull up there, but yeah, that's how I think about how you could drive somebody that's been a member for a long time to take action if the regular appeals have not proved to have them do something.
Yeah.
What do you think? What do you think, Rachel?
Our biggest influx of referrals from longtime members is when we call it STIPT, something to invite people to. So twice a year, drop
That's
two
great.
sizes kickoff, throw a big event and invite, we're going to be doing this seminar all about how to drop two sizes in 8 weeks. Bring your friends, it's free. And so then clients are like, hey, I've been telling you about my gym for the last 3 years. This is where I go. Come with me to this seminar on Thursday night. And then they bring their friends. So that's where we've found the biggest influx of referrals from longtime members, and also past members show up, like if they haven't been in a while and they're like, it's just an easy way for them to show up, hang out, hear, the latest updates of what we're teaching and what we're doing. And then of course, there's a sales pitch at the end of the seminar and we get everybody signed up and it tends to be a big success. So definitely if you haven't, done some kind of a seminar or kickoff or live event, I think that's one of the easiest ways to get people to bring people to you.
And what were those initials again? The acronym?
STIPT, something to invite people to.
Fantastic. Vince, you wanted to add something?
Yeah, that's great, Rachel. I always learn something from you, so thank you. I think that I'll go with more of a quick mindset tactic and then one tactical thing. Most people get referrals by accident. And I think that's the thing that kind of people sit and wait for referrals, and they happen and they will happen. If you do a good job, they will happen. But since we all know that referrals are the best customers, right? Like, by far, like it's like where I'll take a referral over a paid ad client like any day of the week. And so recognizing that this is a very good way to grow your gym, now how do we strategically think about how to make this happen more often, right? That's the mindset shift of how do we go from accidental, right? It happening by accident to orchestrating the process. And Mark said some great things. Rachel also said some great things. I'll share one that was, I thought, the stupidest idea that we've ever had. We had created this thing called March Madness, and it's based on the March basketball tournament, like of all things. And I had nothing to do with coming up with this idea. It was all my staff, and they were like, "We're going to do something for March Madness," and it was all about an internal driving challenge. There was zero external marketing to get people, and our customer and our current clients, they got involved. But what we made is it was like based on a point system thing. So they got points for certain things, and then there was prizes at the end. And one of the things they got a ton of points for was sending referrals. And this was the most referrals we got in a 30-day period than we've ever gotten before. And it was because people are competing and they got points for certain things. They don't care, like Rachel said, they don't care if give them an iPad or stuff like that. But when you gamify something and they can win and they can get points for it, and they even win like cash or I don't remember what the prizes were. But creating these, was it STIPT, like STIPT, right? Creating these events, these very orchestrated systems within your business on a regular basis. And here's the last thing I'll say. If it works, do it again. Don't not do it again. If it works, you put it on your calendar and you rinse and repeat. And that's the thing of like what you're building is a system. You're building these systems and processes inside of your business. So you don't have to create the new thing every month. It's just like if it worked on Valentine's Day, do a bring a friend week on Valentine's Day. And every Valentine's Day, you do a bring a friend week.
And do it for Mother's Day and do it for the holidays and continue until it stops working. All right. So with all those great ideas, now you guys, your gyms are flooded with first-time visits. We asked in the survey the average number of first-time visits per month, and again, as a reminder, these are profitable studios divided by city and suburbs. Dark blue is city and the peach is suburbs. Our data reveal that the studios and gyms in cities, about 29% of them have 11 to 30 first-time visits per month, and about 31% in the suburbs. So let's just call it 30% each. 11 to 30 first-time visits per month at a profitable gym or strength studio. Mark, is this consistent with your experience? Number of first-time visits per month for a profitable gym?
I think so. Yeah, I think so. And again, it's hard because at the risk of being a broken record, you have to just keep zooming out to what is the coach to client ratio? What is the max capacity for that gym? How many clients do we have now? And then how many clients do we want? But yeah, within reason, I would also note the first time visit for many strength training gyms, probably a lot of the gyms that Rachel and Vince and I work with, oftentimes that's going to be some sort of sales conversation, right? It's going to be a strategy session or a starting point or a no sweat intro, or choose the euphemism of your choice for some sort of sales conversation, which could be after they bought a maybe low price trial, or it could be we're going to either sell a trial or potentially straight to membership. Having said that, I think if there are, larger class-based strength studios, I think again of like the Orange Theories of the world, oftentimes in the boutique class world, the first visit is a class. So rather than even having like a quick phone call to set up a proper sit-down sales conversation, they will often, not always, but they will often book a free class or maybe a buy one, get one free, or a 3-pack is very common in the boutique fitness space. They will then book the class on their own. So the first visit is going to vary differently. And of course, again, if you are trying to go from 80 clients to 90 clients, that's going to be a very different volume you need than if you're trying to go from, say, 600 clients to 700 clients.
Makes a lot of sense, Rachel. Are those
Yeah,
numbers
so
consistent?
yeah, so looking at data, like we were talking earlier about the 50 leads. So say you're shooting for that 40 to 50 lead number. We want to see about half those people show up in your door. So if you're not getting half those people to show up in your door, then you do want to work on your phone script, work on, your nurture campaign, work on why aren't we getting these people to show up in our door? So I think if we're getting 50 leads, people who give us their name, their phone number, email, hopefully, then if we can get 25 of those people to show up in our door, that's going to be a good number to shoot for.
Then let's
And
continue.
it is a free strategy session too. Yeah, same as like Mark said, they're not joining right away. So, these are 25 people who make an appointment to come in and talk about what we do.
Okay. And so once they walk in the door, then the question becomes, what percentage of those? Well,
Right.
this is what you were just talking about. So more than 30 profitable gyms and studios are converting more than 30% of those leads to show. And you can see here in the city,
Yes.
it's 46%. In the suburbs, it's 56%. So as you just said, 25 to 50, suburbs are doing that at a higher rate. Gyms in the suburbs
Yeah.
are doing that at a higher rate. And we define
Yeah, I'd say 60% is low for a gym of like a gym like ours. Like if you have your sales process in place, you should be converting. So of those 25 people that show up, 60 to 70% should definitely be happening to get converted
just
to become a member.
for clarification, we didn't ask another option above 30% in the first survey, but we have added that in the current survey. So it doesn't mean that they're not doing 40.
Right.
The highest possible response was more than 30%. But next
Can I
year,
ask just
ahead.
one clarification, Julian? So I'm reading this as conversion rate of leads to first-time visitors.
Correct.
So
Oh, yeah.
this is for top of funnel leads
Yeah,
to who
you're right.
comes into
Okay.
either first class or okay. Is that I just want to sure I'm reading this properly.
Yes.
So this is like the 50% number
Yeah.
I was throwing
Right.
out.
So it's not a
Yeah.
bot, it's just who showed up.
Right.
Right.
There are two.
I get what you're saying, Rachel. though.
Yeah. We
Yeah.
asked
Yeah.
about 2 conversions. We actually think that there are 3 conversions that happen. And
Right.
we always say conversion rate. My question is, which conversion rate are you referring to?
Yeah.
Mhm.
Because you even want to track like people that book an appointment and then people who show up. Because
Right.
You might get, a large percentage booking appointments, but then if you're not following up and making sure they're going to be there, or if they're not qualified, which we want to back up and go, where do we get these people from? Then, they're not going to show up in your door.
So let me ask a broader question, then you guys can run with it. We think of conversion, or in this survey, we reported conversion in two ways. Conversion number one was from lead to they walk in the door, whatever you want to call it. From lead to walk in the door is conversion number one. Conversion number two, they walked in the door, they took a class or they had a consult, and they pulled out their credit card and made a second purchase. We say second purchase, not necessarily a membership. Somebody may go from the intro offer to a class pack, not necessarily a membership. And let me back up. We actually didn't ask about membership. We used the phrase recurring payment because we don't really care if it's a class pack or a membership. I think what's important for the gym owner is the recurring payment. And so somebody could come in, walk in your gym, purchase an intro offer, the 2 for $30. They go through those two classes. They could come back and make a second purchase. Maybe they buy a 5-pack or a 10-pack, but it's not recurring. It's still a second purchase. Our report said that the conversion rate from lead to show is 30% at profitable gyms. The conversion rate from show to next purchase, whatever that is, was also 30%. That's what our data says. What does your experience say, Vince?
The original 30% is accurate from what we see. We have a goal of anywhere from 20 to 30% of leads to show up for a consultation or anything, right? They show up to the door for whatever. So that is consistent. The second piece seems low. Like, so for example, when someone, most of our guys are doing a one-on-one consultation, selling them into a high level small group membership, we're seeing much higher conversion rates than 30%. Kind of what Rachel was saying, 70 to 80% is what we're seeing. A lot of people have gone from, and this is kind of an important thing. There was a while there where everyone was going to 12-month memberships, right? And then there was this process where everyone was doing a 30-day trial, and I did this too. It was consultation to 30-day trial. And then after the 30-day trial, you sell a 12-month membership. Where the seems to be most people are going is a month-to-month, not most people, but a lot, a month-to-month membership, where they show up to a consultation, and now we're just selling them direct to a month-to-month membership. And that's making conversion rates go higher because it is less of a commitment. It's kind of hard for someone to commit to a 12-month thing right off the bat. Those conversion rates were lower. So to answer your question, 30% on point. The next 30% seems very low from what I'm seeing. We're seeing closer to 80% committing to a month-to-month membership right from consult, if you will.
Vince, are you charging for the initial consult?
No, it's a free consultation.
Okay. Yeah, us either. I was just curious.
Yeah.
So this might be one of the more important questions we asked today. What do you recommend to your clients that they do to get that 30% conversion rate from lead to show, and to get the 80%? Like, what are the specific tactics that you recommend in their sales funnel to actually get the first 30 and the second 80 that you recommend? Anyone? How do we actually, what's in the sales funnel to get conversion rate?
Yeah, so I have a small group mastermind called the CEO Mastermind, and they show up every quarter, and we have every ounce of data they could possibly have. They bring it to the meeting. And this is one of the numbers that's off the most. And every person that I have seen that has a garbage conversion rate from lead to show, we do what ruthless thing I'm about to tell you is we put them on the phone in the middle of a group, with their colleagues and gym owners. It's like, getting in there naked, and we have them do a trial, right? And we're listening to how they're closing on the phone. And every time someone with a low conversion rate is absolutely awful on the phone. And I think that we can talk about, all the different tactics and text message reminders and we can show up like the hospital and make sure everyone knows and they get 1,000 texts. If the conversation is crap, it's really not going to show up. So that's like, I think we tend to put the cart before the horse with lead conversion. It's not about the automations and things. It's about the quality of the conversation that people are having. And here's the biggest tip I'll give. It's got to be about them. It's got to be about the person and asking questions and having not a script that you read word for word, but a process that you follow, and you know what you're going to ask, and you're going to listen more than you talk. That is really what we see is the improvement of the conversation is what will drive the conversion the most. Secondary is speed to lead, and I'll let you guys continue on that one.
Who wants to talk about speed to lead? Before you do, let me interject. Last week, I was on a flight to Chicago, and I sat next to a pilot who was 20 years in the Army, and he mentioned that the Army trains their pilots on this very simple philosophy: speed is life. That's what the Army teaches their pilots. Whatever scenario they encounter, turbulence, takeoff, they're trained to make a decision immediately. Speed is life. So we say speed to lead, and the Army's teaching speed is life. So Mark, what is your speed to life recommendation for gym owners?
Yeah, I mean, listen, within reason, everybody says that maybe apocryphal, possibly made up stat that it's something like 85 times less likely if you don't call than the first 5 minutes. And of course, every gym owner in the world is like, but I don't have time. And also they opt in at 2 a.m. So what do I do? So, it's not a perfect world, but yeah, within reason, we want to call people immediately. I think this is always a best practice, but I think 2 other points. First of all, if you're doing any kind of paid ad, it gets all the more important because a lot of times they're literally just going to forget, right? If they're just scrolling through the phone, a lot of times people opt in. A lot of owners get very frustrated with a lot of digital ad agencies because they'll say, yeah, I'm calling the people, but they never opted in. They never heard of us. Listen, I think I understand that is like a frustrating thing, but in practice, a lot of times we just didn't get back to them fast enough, right? Now, that's not to say that that's a bad thing to do regardless. If you have a very hot referred lead, still good idea, call them as soon as you can. But you could make the argument that particularly the better you are at marketing and just the sheer volume of colder leads you're getting, the more important is to try to get them right away. I think the other thing that is interesting is this whole, some people are kind of reluctant to pick up phones these days, right? So I think that's another thing too that makes this a little bit complicated is now the world I move in, Vince, I know you move in this world too, and Rachel, I suspect too. It's interesting because people are older. If they're older than 40, older than 50, they're almost going to want to talk on the phone first, right? I'd make a little space. Again, if you have boutique studios listening, you might have a different funnel which might work, right? It might be you're just driving them right to the class. You could even try to have them book a strategy session without talking to someone. I think what I have seen, I'm pretty sure Vince and Rachel back me up on this. I think to Vince's point, the challenge is if we just can't take a minute to help them get clear on why this matters and sort of mine around until we get them to acknowledge there's an emotional reason they reached out, the show rates are just not going to be as great. So again, it's not a bad game to play, right? You can play a higher volume game where not in a negative way, but maybe it's a little bit more transactional and we're just volume and we're just trying to get them to take some workouts. Again, depending on the model you have, I think that can work. At this point in my career, I tend to prefer more of a small group, slightly more premium priced, slightly older, slightly more high touch model. Because I would just double click on Vince's point that unless we get to some underlying reason about why this matters to them, you'll find everything else, right down to retention, is not going to be as successful, right? Because they're not as bought into how this is going to impact their life.
So I want to dig into what you and Vince both said. Vince, are you recommending to your clients that they have these closing conversations on the phone or on site at their gym? Because you said you would have if somebody at your mastermind was a low performer, you'd have them get the call and you listen to their phone game, and their phone game was pretty weak, is what I thought I heard you say.
Yeah.
Do most of your clients have these sales calls on the phone or in person at their gym?
So usually the setting is done on the phone.
Okay.
That's kind of that 30% that we were talking about.
Okay.
I kind of consider that almost a set, right? That they
That's the
are
appointment.
either through text message. I prefer on the phone, and Mark made a good point of like pick up the phone and call. And I really don't think enough people do that. But that 30% that we were talking about earlier, I consider that a set. And that's typically done either through text message or on the phone. The 80%, the knee to knee selling that I know Rachel does, or the one-on-one consultation to sell them a membership, that would be in person. When I was talking about the guys in the group, we, I just want to be clear, we created like a mock thing where they would go in the other room and we would listen to the phone call, and it's brutal. It's absolutely brutal. But if they can do it in that environment, they can do it in
Yeah.
any
Yeah.
environment, right?
That phone call
That's
was to
great.
set
That's so
the
great.
appointment, right?
That yes, exactly. That the phone call was to set the appointment.
Okay.
Yes.
So we have our first question is, what is a great question to ask and drive the conversation with the lead?
Oh,
Vincent.
yeah. I'll give my absolute favorite question, and I want to give credit to where credit is due. The great Dan Sullivan. I know you guys have followed him, but it's called, and I think it can be asked in the set. I think it can be asked in the consultation. I actually asked the same question both times, and the number one response you'll get from this question is, "Wow, that's a really great question." So here's the question: if we were having this conversation 1 year from today, and you were looking back on that year, what has to have happened with your health and fitness for you to feel happy with your progress? Like that's the question. Like memorize that question. I learned that question a decade ago. I have it baked into my mind. I have it word for word memorized. I believe every salesperson should have it memorized because the most important thing about a sale is we're trying to get people to from a current situation to where they want to be. If we don't know where they want to be, it's really, really hard to paint the picture for how they're going to get there. Right. And so that question gets us to help them describe, and we're guiding them to help them describe where they want to be. And we're not going to say in 1 month, right? Because we want this to be a long-term thing. We want health, and we want to educate them on this is a process. This is not this, oh, we're going to help you drop, 10 pounds. So that's why I like 12 months. So that's my favorite question to ask in either a set or close.
Excellent. Rachel, same question to you. Something that you recommend a gym owner say to convert the lead to show.
So I think we're all on the same page with taking our time. One-on-one appointment, we do spend a full hour with a potential client. So when they come in to sit down with us, really listening to them, like Vince already said, part of that listening to them is digging deeper. So asking why. They say, I want to drop 10 pounds. Don't just let that be the end of the conversation. Instead, ask, why do you want to drop 10 pounds? I want to, I have a trip planned for Europe this year with my family. Okay, now let's talk about that trip to Europe. So now we can start to get really into the deeper conversation that I really care about and, really want to hear what's going to motivate this person to join the gym, come to the gym, be consistent. So asking why like 3 times. So, just keep asking why and why do you want to, why do you want to feel that way when you go to Europe with your family? Why would that be important? Well, I don't want to not be able to experience all the things with my family that I could experience, right? I mean, that's where we get into these deep conversations where they're like, they really feel like, you know what, this is going to change my life. And that's what we're doing. We're changing their life. And I think if people walk away from your sales table, we didn't show them enough value, right? We didn't. And so we have to figure out what's valuable to them. Like if we don't know what's valuable to them, how do we show them that we can provide that value, right? So take your time. I think that's like my biggest. I think a lot of us are in a rush. We're hurt. We don't have time. We want to do a quick phone call. We want to do, just like take a breath for a minute, sit down. Because if you start that client on the right foot, like Mark was saying, Like we're big on, I would rather have less clients sign up each month that are highly qualified, that are really good fits for our culture and our community, that are going to refer us a ton of people and that are going to be with us for 20 to 25 years, like a lot of our clients have. And that's how you build a long-term sustainable company, is by starting it off with really taking your time and listening to that person. And then showing them you understand what's valuable to them and that's what you're going to help them with.
Excellent. Vince, we have two people who have asked you to repeat the question that you learned from Dan Sullivan. Slowly.
If we were having this conversation 1 year from today, and you were looking back on that year, what has to have happened with your health and fitness for you to feel happy with your progress?
Excellent. Thank you. Mark, did you want to go back and answer the question of what do you recommend a gym owner says to the lead in that setting conversation to get them to show up? Do you have anything different you want to add?
No. No, yeah. No, I think that's well covered.
Okay,
Yes, and I agree. Strongly agree.
Yes, and we're going to go back to the conversion question for a second because we have a question from the audience. If 60 to 70% is the conversion rate, and Vince was saying 80 is what he's expecting, what is the typical attrition rate at some facilities that have limited capacity? Just curious, how you manage all the new clients without hiring more staff? Mark?
Yeah, I mean, I get it. Depends on the volume you're doing here, but for context, the gym I have in New Jersey is 2.5 people, and yeah, I mean, I think might we be so lucky to have like so many millions of clients that's presenting an issue? I guess maybe you can ask the question for me one more time, Julian, just to make sure I'm answering it.
Yeah,
There's concerns about capacity, perhaps?
essentially, the question is, what's the attrition rate? The assumption is if you're converting a lot of people at a 60 to 70% rate, you're going to have more people than you have space for. But I think you already,
Like if you're keeping people.
yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, that's I think I'll be happy. We'll all be happy to help you when that becomes a problem. Yeah, the good news, bad news is at a certain point, it's going to be hard to outsell attrition for two reasons. Number one, again, even in your massive large group model, within reason, at a certain point, you just do start to run out of capacity. You begin to hit these invisible bounds during which people are terminating because they can't get in. The other way you can reach capacity is depending on how many top funnel leads you can get and your throughput to new members, you will not be able to outsell attrition, right? Because if you have 100 clients and you're retaining it, let's call it 5%, you need 5 clients just to stand still. If you have, and I know this isn't typical, but just to follow us out, if you have 1,000 clients, even at 5%, you're going to need 50 clients just to stand still. Not only that, there will tend to be a little bit of law of gravity all the way down, right? So what do I mean by that? Well, if you have 50 clients and your goal is to grow by 5 clients in a month, and let's say at current, you're converting at, let's say, a 25% throughput, right? Okay, so let's say lead to new member. I think we've been, I think, Julian, you're 30 and 30 is 9%. I agree. It's maybe a little bit low, though. Again, in the boutique fitness space, that could happen if you're playing more volume game. Typically, I see 10 to 25% throughput. You can go on the higher side if you're very good at marketing, if your market is unsophisticated, and if you're not relying heavily on paid ads. If you are not as good, if you have a massive paid ad strategy, you're very good at marketing, you're driving a lot of cold leads, and if you're in a sophisticated market, you're going to see that number is a little bit lower, right? There are certain markets in America, some of you listening might be lucky, where right now it's, it still feels like people are like, whoa, they called me right away, right? I've lived in New York and New Jersey. I always say it's like trying to pet a deer when you're trying to contact a paid ad. It's like they're willing to do it, but they're just getting marketed so hard all the time. So to go back to this question, okay, well, let's just say at 50 clients to add 5 clients per month right now, you need 20 leads and you're at 5% retention, okay, or 5% attrition. Well, if you go up to, say, 150 clients, first of all, it's going to be hard to keep the exact same retention all the way up. You want to, but invariably there's going to be a little bit of gravity drag. Not only that, but you are often going to be less efficient with the leads, right? Because now if you're looking to add 5 clients, at a certain point, or I should say rather, if you need to keep selling more and more members to outsell attrition, not only you might not need 4 times as many leads as you need members. I just told you sometimes you need like 8 to 10 times as many leads as you need members, right? And again, there's these strange scaling laws in gyms that are non-intuitive. I'm sure Vince and Rachel can empathize with me. You know, a lot of gym owners, and I love you so much. This might be some of you listening. You're like, I sell 100%. All I need is more leads. I get 3 leads every month, and 2 out of 3 of them, almost 3, they almost always sign up. Just get them in front of me. Well, that's true, but if you're only getting 2 to 3 leads per month, this means this is an individual that has navigated a digital gauntlet to find you in the first place, and they're coming in, throwing their credit card at you, begging to start. The rules will start to change if you have a very sophisticated marketing strategy, because at a certain point, there will be some change of the quality will denature a little bit as your quantity scales up. I think that's to be expected and is okay. But I say all that to say that that's why in practice, you usually don't have to worry about running out of capacity. And again, by the way, there are people that do. Right. There are gyms in America that hit capacity. And at that point, then you just start to have this interesting lifestyle conversation around, okay, well, what's next? Vince and I've talked before, what do you want now, right? Do we want more locations? Do you want to like let this rip and scale down your hours a little bit and hang out with your family? So in practice, yeah, I appreciate this question. And I'm sad to say, usually that's not like a real issue.
But it is a perfect segue for the monthly churn data that we see here. And our report indicated that the majority of profitable studios and gyms, regardless of whether they're in the city or the suburb, the majority of them are maintaining less than 5% churn rate. Rachel, is that what you see at the gyms that you coach and advise?
Yeah, absolutely. I think it's hard to keep up with anything over 5%. So we try to shoot for under 3%. So like Mark was saying, depending on how big your gym is and how many, like we have 240 members. So shooting for under 3% means we need 7 new clients to keep up, right? To keep our 240, right? So I think depending on where you're at, right, this is going to be harder or easier. But I think shooting for under that 5% to remain profitable and not feel like, a lot of times what we've had is gyms who have done different programs where they get an influx of all these new members because it was really low priced, huge promotion that they brought in all these people, but they're not keeping people. And so everybody's just coming in and then they're leaving, coming in and then they're leaving. And that's so much more work to constantly have to get new people in the door than it is to, work on your services, work on keeping people. So if you are losing more than 5%, I would fix that before I would worry about the marketing piece of it, because if you work on just the marketing and the people are going out the door, you're never going to be able to catch up.
Vince, you want to add anything to the churn conversation?
I'll just say that I totally agree with what Rachel and Mark just said. And the only guarantee in business is you won't keep all your customers.
Right.
Like you can make all your gym free and you could pay people to come to your gym and you're still going to have a churn rate. So a lot of this is out of your hands. And I think a lot of people beat their head against the wall of, oh my God, I lost a client last month. And, they're taking it very, very emotionally. So I think some of this is managing the expectations of like, you are going to lose people every month, guaranteed, like almost guaranteed. There probably have been months where you've lost 0 people, but for the most of us, we've lost, a small number. So I think it's managing the expectations, but I agree with Rachel. Like it's real over 5%, it gets tough. Like none of us are as good at marketing and sales as we need to be able to outpace a 10% attrition rate. And we don't want to. We don't want to. Everyone on this call probably doesn't want to play that game, because one of the differentiators between our company, because what you said in the very beginning of this call, privately owned companies, right? That we're mom and pop shops. All of us here are mom and pop shops, and we survive on good culture, on good community. Like that is what makes our business different than a lot of these, turn and burn type of facilities. So you have to protect that. That's one of your most important assets. So if your churn is above 5%, that is something to fix immediately.
So, Vince, you just gave me the opportunity for my first question off the board that you guys are not prepared for, but I know Mark is prepared for this. You just talked about your audience, your clients, people listening are owners of mom and pop businesses. They started because they loved movement and working with people and training people. You can go to Perform Better seminars and listen to the Mike Boyles of the world talk about the mechanics of your craft, or you could go listen to the three of you talk about the business of running your business. How does the individual gym owner manage both, becoming proficient expert in delivering your personal training services and becoming proficient at the business of running a gym in 24 hours? How do you guys manage that? What do you recommend for the gym owner struggling to be proficient in both?
I would recommend becoming a really good coach first before you open your business. I think it is very hard to become the best at both at the same time. I think if you are not a great coach, if you don't have that skill set yet, it's probably not a good idea to jump and open your own gym right away. Find a place that you can work, that you can hone that skill. You can learn all the things about being a good coach. If that's what you're passionate about, if you want to be, if you want to coach and you want that to be a part of your, like us, we're coaches. Alan, we're still on the floor coaching. We love it. It's why we own a gym. And so we wouldn't give that up. I'm still running the drop two sizes meetings. It's because I want to, because I love it. So if that's who you are, if that's, you want to coach, where, I know, other people want to be the business owner. And if you want to be the business owner, find yourself a good coach to be your partner so that they can be the one that's honing that skill while you're honing your business owner skills. I think it would be hard to try to do both at the same time.
There's a key word you just said there: find a partner. Mark?
Yeah.
You want to weigh in on this?
This topic generally?
I know you well enough to know you have an answer to this question.
Yeah, I mean, I don't actually know the mine's much different than Rachel's, honestly. I think it's hard to do both of them. I have kind of this theory of my observation of the displaced nutrients, which I must qualify as potentially me getting in my rocking chair in the old gym owner's old folks home here and be like, you kids got to go read Starting Strength again, right? There are a lot of people now rushing to the business stuff, which I get, and all three of us are, arguably voices for that. And we want people to have business processes that are well run. But at the end of the day, the product really is the thing that matters. And to Rachel's point, it kind of is. I mean, it's hard enough to just learn all the business things you need, right? Like even just like marketing, sales, finance, like that alone there's a bunch of different sub buckets of running a business. So yeah, ideally, this is something you've really developed some competence or some mastery in up front. Certainly, that's what a lot of, in theory, franchise brands do, is it's not impossible to outsource it. I guess you could work with someone at some point, but there's probably going to have a bigger conversation on the pros and cons of partners. Because when I think about and I think this tracks the retention conversation, right? People are looking for three things, right? We want results, we want experience, and we want positive relationships. And depending on that consumer and depending on that model, people are going to put different priorities on each of them. But, it's really funny. I was like talking to a buddy of mine. I think some of you guys know my buddy Joe Maglio. We're having a conversation. We're talking about retention stuff, and we're like, oh, these retention things and these stuff. And by the way, we can talk about some of that too. There's a lot of cool things now in 2025 that you can and you probably should do to run the business. And he didn't say it quite this flippantly, but it's a funnier story when I tell it this way. But he was like, "This is all stupid. It just, is the session good? Is the product good? Like, do people love the product? Are they excited to be there? Do they like the time of the coach?" Because yeah, you do have to have competence at, I think, the program design, the technical coaching, but then that also has to be married with the business process of how do I do it in a way that is operationally efficient, that is consistent. And that's usually through some combination of creating standards, having audits, and a lot of other stuff we can pull up there. But yeah, I mean, yeah, so I think, yeah, I think Rachel nailed it. Ideally, do the training stuff first and then open the gym, because there's only so many hours in the day and that gets hard afterwards. Failing that, maybe you want to take a quarterly focus at a time. That's sort of my own approach to education. I'm not saying that's correct, but I tend to have a focus on stuff on a quarterly basis. I will also give a shout out to our pal Mike Boyle and Kevin Carr and Brendan Rierick. Certified Functional Strength Coach is a great company to look into if you're looking for support in that.
We've actually had multiple coaches work for us get to a point where in our business, they're at the top doing everything they can as a coach, they're kicking butt, and then they've joined Results University and opened their own gym, and we've been able to coach them on their business and help them open their business. And that's been, I think, the best path is, become the great coach. And then, now we can go ahead and open the business. And one of the hardest shifts for trainers to do, though, is shifting from trainer to business owner. And the gyms that we work with that we have the hardest, I'm sure you guys are the same, the hardest time getting their business where we need it is the people who want to coach 60 hours a week and can't pull themselves off that coaching floor. You have to be ready when you open a business to give up some of the, 20 hours a week is max. That's what we say, like 20 hours a week coaching is max. So we got to get that schedule down because there's no way you're going to run your business if you're planning to coach 40 to 60 hours a week. It's just not going to happen.
So I'll give you an exception to that, which goes back to your previous comment about having a partner. Mark and I have a good friend in New York City who coaches 50 hours a week. And he loves it. And he's charges one of the highest rates in the city, but he has 2 business partners and his wife is the office man. Right. So he put himself in a place where he's just coaching and there's a ecosystem around him doing all the other stuff.
Yeah. I often, And that's a very robust version that is, unique to, I think, a very talented operator. I sometimes refer to that for people listening. You can maybe locate yourself in this. I sometimes refer to that as the independent trainer plus model. Because, Vince, Rachel, I'm sure you've sometimes had conversations with like wonderful people that we're happy to help. And they're like, oh, I have this gym. And you're like, tell me about your gym. It's like, I trained 3 clients in 75 square foot in my garage. And by the way, if that's you listening, like, that's amazing. That's a great place to start. That is just the mechanics of that is a little bit different, right? And by the way, your next step might be, now I'm going to rent 200 square feet and I'm going to have a super part-time VA admin help. And then some of you might go on to the types of businesses that the 3 of us help people run. Some of you, it might be the better move to be like, scale up to 50 hours per week, charge $300 per hour, have everyone else do everything for you. And, that can be a great way to go based on your interest there. I think the only thing that, I would add to that is, we've been around a minute here. I'm not as young as I used to be. My experience is it's a very special kind of person that's happy to do that into their late 40s and into their 50s. So, oftentimes you have the coach that loves that when they're like 33 and they're like, this is amazing. I'm making $150K per year. I wear sweatpants. Let's go. And then you're like 42 and you got a mortgage and got 3 kids. And not always, again, I want to see you, independent trainer, if you're listening. I think that's another great way to go. I just want to support you in being intentional, and I just want to acknowledge that in my observations, sometimes what we prioritize changes.
All right, guys, we have about 10 minutes left and several questions in the Q&A. So let's go rapid fire answers. 1 person per question.
Which we're really good at.
Yeah. 17 minutes only.
What's the best way to figure out your gym's max capacity? Is there a standard formula to determine your gym's max capacity? Mark, since you mentioned this twice today, your recommendation?
Yeah, the way you can back it out is there's a few different ways to do it, okay? But what you could do is you could say, okay, if you have 1 pod, you're going to have, let's call it 50 to 60 primetime hours per week, right? 50, 55, 60, somewhere in there. The reason being, you usually can't do, it depends on the market, but we're not going to assume that we can really max out a session like at 2 p.m. on a Tuesday. So if you assume, for sake of argument, you're open 6 days per week, that often is going to be, let's call it 50 to 55 hours. So from there, you just kind of do the math based on your coach to client ratio. So again, in the 6-on-1 world, which the 3 of us know pretty well, typically you're at like 120, 130, maybe 150. And of course, it's going to depend a little bit on the average frequency per client per month, but you can at least do the math to understand based on how many sessions you can reasonably offer, based on how many clients can fit in a session, you can back that out to understand a hypothetical total visit max. You can then further back that out based on frequency. Yeah, I'd be curious to hear if Vince and Rachel have math around this, because you could just kind of do it 1-to-1-ish and assume there's going to be breakage of underutilization, which will allow for flexibility. You could, I think if you get bigger, you might have to say, okay, I'm on the hook, so to speak, I'm just keep the math simple. I'm on the hook for 500 sessions per week. So maybe I need to offer 550. So there's a little bit of a wiggle room. And then I divide that by how many hours I have and how many people I can fit in the session. But I think that's how I would think about that. Although, again, there's sort of a hypothetical invisible ceiling you'll get to if you really do reach true capacity. That will just show up and increase churn because people just can't get in.
Let me define what rapid response means for
Sorry.
that would not be it. So Mark at unicorns.com.
Yeah, I tried, everybody. Sorry.
Yes. If you have a question about contributing max capacity, Mark at businessforunicorns.com. Rachel or
Send
Vince,
it to me.
are there training resources that you can recommend to train your staff on delving deeper into the why of the client? Are there training resources? I will go first with a non-training resource. Start with why. Simon Sinek. I mean, everyone here listening, if you haven't listened, if you haven't read that, start with the YouTube version of that and then the book. That is a non-training resource. Rachel, do you have a training specific resource?
So we actually, in our sales process, we have it laid out pretty good. So if you want to check out Results Fitness University, we have our On-Demand Success Club where we have courses on, how to lay out those questions. There are a number of coaching books, I think, or coaching, and I'm trying to think of some of the ones where they do go over some of those. But I think if you've done like precision nutrition, I know he covers that quite a bit in his precision nutrition certification. So, looking into some of the other certifications, you might find that. But yeah, I think it's something that you want to learn how to coach. You want to learn how to, it's part of coaching, I think, is learning how to ask questions and keep asking the right questions.
Excellent. Vince got a really tough question here specifically for you. What is on the front and the back of your black metal VIP card?
I think I have one.
Do you have one to show?
No. I usually have one around here, but I believe it's the front of it says, actually, while we're plugging, I have a new book coming out and I put a screenshot of the card in the book. The book's coming out soon called The 8 Profit Levers. But I believe it's just free.
Say it slowly. What's the name of the book?
The 8 Profit Levers.
And where can they find it?
It's not, they'll know. But I believe it says free 30-day jumpstart. Free 30-day fitness jumpstart. That's what it says on the front. And then this is very important. It also says $500 value on the bottom. That's a really important piece. So you're kind of putting a value on the card. And then the back is what to do, which I believe sends them to a landing page.
Got it. Last 3 questions, one each. Vince, since you're up, let's go with the last question for you. Vince, I know you are great at helping gym owners scale responsibly to multiple gyms. We just opened our 4th gym, and I'm struggling to know how I should measure success in our biggest initial location. Revenues in the initial location are down 30%, but the other locations are doing well. How should I think about this?
Someone has to be in charge. Usually the case is no one has taken ownership, and I've gone through this with many of my guys because I have a lot of guys that they opened up a big gym and then they opened up a lot of little gyms. And the guys that were the big gym, the main mothership has gone down, is they took themselves out of the gym and they're running all these mini gyms and they're leading all these other people, and they didn't put someone in charge of the main gym. So they have to get clarity on the role and who owns the results, who owns the P&L of that one location. And just like all the other locations, 3rd, 4th, 5th, 6th, the driver of this, kind of like what Mark said about it, it's all based on the person, that is in charge. So if they want that mothership to get back on track, you need to put someone in charge that owns the sales, that owns the community, that owns the retention, and they have to protect that. I call it the center of the accountability chart, the sales and the retention. The rest, the finance and the marketing can be driven by what we call corporate, or like how they're fueling all the other locations and stuff like that. But what's going to protect the business is someone owning the middle of the org chart, which is the sales and the product delivery. And they got to protect that at all costs.
Fantastic. Last 2 questions. If your goal is to have premium pricing, meaning 250 or more per month, can your trial offer be too low? Should you keep the trial offer as high as possible if you're trying to attract premium pricing? Rachel, I think that's for you.
Yeah, I think I already mentioned this, that you do want to be careful that you don't go too low with your trial. I would, definitely do a price point with your trial that is closer to your membership. I think if you go too low, you will get people that can't afford your membership. So with the 250 a month, I'd probably stick with like a 197 or 150 even.
Okay, excellent. I haven't heard anything about utilizing social media channels, not paid, to bring in more referrals, leads, appointments, etc. Do any of you have a strategy for leveraging organic social media to drive top of funnel? All three of you are nodding. So how about this is the last question.
So we're all like,
Each of you give one tactic that you use, one tactic of how you use organic social media. We'll go Vince, Rachel.
I'll go, yeah. So I think that these days, with all of how AI has made everything so easy and content so accessible, I think the personal success story is what is going to win on social. It's also, if you look at Cialdini's work from Persuasion, it's like the number one most persuasive thing is social proof. And so you kind of have that. So I would say clients getting really, really, really good at collecting success stories, at collecting that, and then getting a consistent pulse of heaping on social proof so that all of a sudden someone can see, wow, like that place down the street, like they get results with their people. People are having success over there. And so I think like finding a lot of different ways to collect social proof. I'll give you two.
Give us
One,
one.
one being screenshot testimonials, where basically you ask your client to send you back a text message and then you screenshot it and then you can post it. So it's much more believable because it's a real screenshot. And the second one being case study interviews, where you take a customer, you have them on Zoom and you interview them, and then you can transcribe the interview, take the video, and now you have all this different content that you can use and take that customer showcase and put it all these different places.
Excellent. Rachel.
yeah, on that note, so set up a camera in your gym once a month and stand there and grab clients and say, hey, I'm going to interview you real quick. They don't have to be long. Just, pull them in and give them a quick interview. So I do that once a month. And then that way you have tons of content. One more thing. My favorite is we do challenges where we get our clients to post. So put it on your clients. So we have our Mom's Gone Strong challenge. Post your PR and you get a t-shirt. So then they're all posting videos of their PRs in the gym. We grab those videos. We have all kinds of people posting, tagging us, collaborating with us. 100 workout challenge, end of the year, 100 workout challenge. They basically have to post every time they work out. Again, grab those, screenshot those, repost those, collaborate with your clients, get your clients to do a lot of the work. They're the ones who are in front of the audience that you want to get in front of. So put them to work.
And by camera, let's clarify. You mean iPhone with the tripod, a good.
We now have a professional photographer or videographer come in, but that works great. Just don't make any excuses. Set your phone up and get started.
Mark, bring us home.
I would say an important thing about Instagram is the profile is an alternative website, first of all. So when people go to the website, it has to be clear who you help, the kind of outcomes you create, and what you want them to do next. Ideally, this is essentially mirroring what's on the website itself. And then finally, and related to that, once people are following you, starting a conversation is a smart idea for a local small business, right? It's often called sell by chat. I personally prefer the term nurture by chat, but starting a conversation with an easy this or that, yes or no style of question to get people to engage. Because presumably if it's somebody following your locally branded, locally owned small business gym, they might have some interest in maybe doing something. So those are two things I would suggest. There's, I think, a lot more about what you do after that, but then you try to have a conversation and try to get them on the phone at some point is the brief version.
So Mark, your name, your company name, your email, and your
Yes.
website. Go.
Yes, my name is Mark Fisher, Business Unicorns, businessunicorns.com, mark@businessunicorns.com.
See how simple that is?
So
Vincent.
simple.
Vince Gabriel, smallgrouppersonaltraining.com. is where you can get a copy of my free book.
Email or Instagram handle?
Email is vince@gabrielfitness.com. Instagram, they changed it. I don't remember it.
Rachel.
Rachel Cosgrove, Results Fitness University, resultsfitnessuniversity.com. And I am very active on Instagram, so rachelcosgrove.co. And my email is rachel@results-fitness.com.
And my name is Julian Barnes, the BFS Network, bfsnetwork.com. The strength report can be found at bfsstrengthreport.com, julian@bfsnetwork.com. My thanks to our panelists, Mark, Rachel, and Vince. And our special thanks to Chris from Perform Better for organizing the webinar today and inviting us to participate. Good luck to everyone. Happy sprint to the end of the year and happy January, beginning of next year. Thanks, everyone.
Thank you.
Bye.